Hello, my name is Nick Zitzmann, and I'm with the iOS team at Wolfram Research, and my talk is on using the cloud on your mobile device, and we'll be talking about the cloud app on iOS, Android, and the Player app on iOS.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick Zitzmann, and I'm one of the mobile developers at Wolfram Research, and I'm here to tell you today about 3 different applications that we offer that you can use to view your cloud objects on your mobile devices and even edit them. And those applications are Wolfram Cloud for iOS, Wolfram Cloud for Android, and a new one that we just launched not long ago, Wolfram Player for iOS. Let's start with Wolfram Cloud for iOS and Android. They allow you to create and edit your notebooks and also edit use most of your deployments like forms and instant APIs from your phone or tablet computer. The system requirements for iOS is we require iOS 9 or later. However, iOS 9 support is not long for this world and will soon be requiring iOS 10. So if you're using an older device that only requires that maxes out at iOS 9, we encourage you to upgrade. At the very bare minimum, the app will run on a system as old as the iPhone 4S or the iPad 2. However, we do not recommend this, and the reason why is because those devices had only half a gigabyte of physical memory, and here I'm talking about physical memory and not storage space. And because they only had 512 megabytes, they will easily run out of memory because the front end requires around 150, 160 megabytes, and that's just with a blank notebook. Any more complicated than that, then it's going to run into memory starvation and the OS is going to mercy kill it. At the bare minimum, I recommend the iPhone 5S or iPad Air or later. I'm using an iPad Air 2 for this demonstration coming up. If you have an iPad Pro with a 10.5-inch screen or a 12.9-inch screen, you're in luck because we support those screen sizes at full resolution. And if you have an external keyboard, either a Bluetooth keyboard or Apple's plug-in keyboard for the iPad Pro, we support those as well. If you have an iPhone and an Apple Watch, we have a Watch app around which you can use to deploy your deployments over to the Apple Watch and view them over there. On Android, we require Android 4.1, that's first Jelly Bean or later, and also any device that has a gigabyte or more memory, such as the Galaxy S3 or later. Obviously, the app will run much better on newer devices than the Galaxy S3. On both apps, you need a cloud account. You do not need to have a paid account. A free one is okay. If you have private cloud, then both applications support connecting to your private cloud. You connect to the private cloud by changing a setting inside the Settings app on iOS, and on Android, there's a control on the login screen which you use to change your server. And both applications require a network connection. They do not work offline. Here are some of the things you can do inside the cloud apps. You can connect to either wolframcloud.com or you can connect to a private cloud server. You can browse your files and folders. You can create new notebooks unless you are a Mathematica Online viewer, and then we block you from doing that. You can edit your existing notebooks. You can fill out instant APIs and instant web forms. You can magnify your content, grow it or shrink the fonts. You can copy and paste your text and images from other iOS applications. You can rename objects, you can delete objects, and we also have an online documentation browser which you can use and to help you do your coding. Inside the notebook, you can edit text, you can insert control equals boxes, you can create and evaluate cells. We have autocomplete on both iOS and Android. We have function templates on iOS only. This feature will be rolled out to Android pretty soon. And you can also insert images that are taken by the camera or from the photo gallery. You can also copy and paste cells. Now, some of the things you can't do in the cloud apps is you cannot create new folders. You can't move objects between folders. You can do that in the Player app, which we'll get to a little bit later. You cannot create or edit scheduled tasks within the GUI interface. You can still do them from the Wolfram language code. You can't share files from other users quite like you can on the desktop. You can't resize 2D objects yet. We're working on that. You can't rotate 3D objects, but you can in the Player app, which I'll cover a little later. And anything that, for obvious reasons, won't work in the cloud, like System Modeler integration, Arduino link, or other connected devices, that won't work as well. A question that we frequently get from our users is, okay, so I launched your app. Now, why did your app need my phone's location? Well, first of all, we don't need your phone's location. Both apps can use your phone's location, and the reason why we do it is to initialize the value of here inside the kernel, as well as we also get your time zone in order to initialize the local time zone symbol. And we do those things for queries that will use your location in some interesting way. If you don't want to provide us that information, that's fine. You don't have to provide us with that information. However, if you try doing something that is geosensitive, then we fall back on GeoIP. And if you're on a Wi-Fi network, that may or may not work. If you're on a mobile phone network, then that will probably place you in the middle of a cornfield in Kansas. We will also ask you for your camera or photo library permission in order to insert images into notebooks and forms. You don't need to give us that, but if you want to paste an image, you have to give us that permission. All communication between your device and our server is encrypted, and any data that you do send us is governed by our privacy policy, and the way you view our privacy policy is if you're just signing up for an account, we have a link inside the sign-up form that allows you to read our privacy policy. If you're already signed in, you can, once you bring up the application, you can touch the hamburger button, which is the button in the top left corner of the application, and you can touch your name or the logo that says Wolfram Player inside the Player app, and then we have a link in there where you can view our privacy policy for yourself. All right, let's take a look, and I'm going to switch views now. All right, now I've already started the Cloud app up, so this is what my home screen looks like. I'm going to touch the hamburger button here so you can see all of our different navigation options. You could choose deployments, for example, to view your instant web forms. I don't believe I have any on this account. Oh, I do have a few. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my home, and then I'm going to create a new notebook. And can you see the controls there at the bottom? Okay, this is what you do to create new cells or do navigation when you've got a insertion point selected like that. So I'm going to touch New Cell here, and we have several different options for your new cells. I'm going to just choose Styled Text here, and there are a few more options inside Styled Text. I'm going to choose Title, and I'm going to type a title. And just to show you, our system does support Unicode, so I'm going to touch the globe button down here in the corner here, and I'm going to choose this option here that says Japanese alphabet, Nihongo kana. And I'm just going to type, let's see, Subadashi, that means wonderful in Japanese. And I'll switch back to Latin. And I'll come down here and create an input cell, and I'll type something into the input cell to show you some of our new user assistance features. So I'm going to type manip, and you can see as I type down here, you can see this is the autocomplete over here, this bar right here. And now let's say I don't remember how to use manipulate. Well, on the desktop, you have function templates to deal with that. And on mobile, we also have function templates. So I'm going to touch and hold here, and you get an option here. The one button on the right will bring up the documentation for that particular symbol. I'll bring it back, and then the button on the left will allow us to insert a function template. And I can type something here, so let's see. Plus a, comma, x, comma, negative 5, pi, comma, 5, pi, oops, pi, and close. And I can touch, oh, here I need to close now. I can touch one of these here and insert. So I'm going to go to A from, I don't know, negative 10 to positive 10. You can also slide like that. And, okay, evaluate. Spin, spin, spin. Okay, here's my evaluation, and I can drag the slider here. And it works pretty well, I'd say. It's a little bit choppy, but that's just because we're going back and forth with the server just to get images from the server in order to display them here. Let's show you something else. I'll touch input cell again, and this time I'm going to insert a photo. And I'm going to use edge detect on a photo. I'm going to touch the button here above the evaluate button here. That's going to insert a photograph. And you can see here, you can either take a picture with one of your cameras, you can go to the photo library, or a feature we have from the Wolfram Alpha app that we put in here, you can use the last photo taken. I'll choose photo library just for now. Let's take a look at my photos. I twa putty tat. I did twa putty tat. I'm gonna evaluate that. My cat's name is the Edge, by the way, so I'm using edge detect to detect edge. Okay, now I could be up here all day, but I've got another app to show you. So I'm gonna exit out of here, and since this is a new notebook, it's gonna ask me to rename my notebook, and I'm going to type Z Wonderful. I'm putting the Z up front so that it'll appear at the bottom of my file list so that you can see the file as we were leaving out here. You can see that it appeared down there in the bottom right corner. And all right, I think that's enough for the Cloud app. Let me switch back here. Let me talk a little bit about Wolfram Player for iOS. Wolfram Player allows you to view and interact with your notebooks, but not edit them. It works both offline and online. System requirements, generally the same as the Cloud app, although you don't need a network connection. So why use the Wolfram Player app and not the Cloud app? Well, it supports pinch zoom. You can rotate your 3D graphics. You can move your locators around, and it works all as fast as your CPU will allow it to run. It supports connecting to multiple cloud accounts at once. You can connect to the different accounts on the same server, or you can connect to multiple servers if you have both a public and private cloud account, for example. You can import your notebooks from a third-party file cloud, such as Dropbox or OneDrive. Google Drive does not work quite yet, and I'll show you in a bit here. You can also transfer files between the cloud servers and the local device. You can even transfer files between cloud accounts if you've got multiple different accounts at once. And it all works in the background. So if you're on a particularly slow network connection, what you can do is, if you're downloading a large notebook, you can just start the download, put the app in the background, go look at cat photos, catch a Pokemon, whatever you like to do when you're not using the player app, and then you can come back and hopefully it'll be done. Also, the player app supports slide over and split view if you have an iPad Air or later. So why not use the Wolfram player app? Well, you can't edit or evaluate. And also, not all kernel functionality is available in the player app. Most of it is, but anything that depends on JLink is just going to fail in the player app, and the reason why is because there is no Java runtime on iOS. Okay, let's switch back here and let's All right, when you first start the player app here, you get our welcome notebook. And let me show you how to manipulate files here. You can either use the select button, which is near the top right corner there, or you can long press on there and it'll automatically select it and move into selection mode. From here I can share it, and this works like the sharing window on every other iOS app. And this is how we use AirDrop in order to transfer the file. You can also send it to email or copy it to a cloud service, whatever shows up in your sharing window normally. One other thing we can do is we can move it to the cloud, and the way I do that is I touch all locations back here to back one out. I was on this device a moment ago. I'll just touch my cloud account here, and there are my cloud files there. Now notice that the button changed slightly. It was moved just a moment ago. So it moves the file on local accounts, but once you move it off server to somewhere, it changes to copy instead. So I'm going to copy that, and it'll copy it to my home folder there. Other things you can do, you can also rename it or delete it from here. Now, delete is a little white lie when we're browsing a cloud file system, because when you press the delete button, we're actually sending your document to the trash can rather than deleting it outright. But on a local device, if you press the delete button and you confirm the "Are you sure?", then if you delete it, it's gone. So you can see here that I have multiple accounts signed in at once, and I can sign into more by touching this Add Another Cloud Account button here at the bottom. And we get to the sign-in window, and here's how you change servers as well. You touch the Cloud Server button, and I'm going to cancel out of these. You can import files from third-party clouds. Now, if you're using iOS 10 or earlier, you'll see your cloud services here. On iOS 11, it changes to Browse, and I'll touch that. And here's how you get your accounts from other places. This is the problem that we're having with Google Drive. That is a actual notebook, and it's not letting us select it. We know about this, but on iCloud Drive and Dropbox it works. But let's switch back to the cloud here. I'll choose Home, and here's the document that we just made. Okay, that's pretty smooth because it's running locally. And you can also magnify it, make it larger. And this button up here is for documentation, so you can get back to the documentation center inside the player app as well. And then we also have some other features in here where you can rename and delete from within the notebook, or you can touch download to device, and that's going to copy it to my local file system. This is also kind of a little white lie because we already downloaded it. We're just copying the file over. Or not. Okay, not sure what happened there. But anyway, I think that's about everything. So let me now take you to All right, now if you have an iPhone on you, please point your QR code reader at the screen, and this is how this will take you to the iTunes store where you can download our app. And you can see here that I put the Wolfram language code up front, so you know I'm not rickrolling you. Okay, I see a few phones up here. Android users, you might want to prime your QR code reading app because I'm going to get to you next. Okay, I see hands going down. I'll switch to Android users. Put your devices in the air and point them at the screen like you actually do care.
Can we download the QR app first?
Okay. I got one more app to go through, but I can take questions at this time if any of you have any questions. Fahim?
Is the player app that doesn't allow evaluation, is it because of Apple policy or Wolfram policy?
Well, we do allow evaluations if you use a button or if you use the dynamic command or manipulate or anything that would go through the kernel. We do support those evaluations. You just can't evaluate or edit inside the application because we haven't programmed that in yet.
Because there was some time when Apple didn't allow programming in some of the apps that they started allowing for education, so I just wondered.
It is my understanding that they allow interpreted languages now, just not compiled ones. Okay, I see hands going down now. So iOS users, you might want to point your phones at the screen again. This is linked to the Wolfram Player app. Now, the Wolfram Player app is quite large. I think it's more than a 1/4 gig in size, so you might want to be on a Wi-Fi device for this one. Yes, sir.
I noticed on the Player app, you have fairly good integration with the Files app and all that in iOS 11. Is the Cloud app moving that same direction as the same level of integration, or is that just going to always be your cloud account? Can you move files out of your cloud directly into Dropbox or whatever, vice versa?
No, but that would be an interesting product idea. Please send a suggestion to us. Yes?
Just a pretty specific question, but I noticed that the mobile apps, while you can take pictures using the built-in camera, you can't use things like current image in the notebooks. So is that a limitation with some of Apple's APIs trying to get that to work in the cloud, or just something you have to put in there?
So I don't believe we support current image yet on the mobile cloud notebooks. I don't know what it would take to get that. In the player application, I'm really not sure, so come back next year.
The two apps seem to have a significant amount of overlapping. So could you go over a bit of the use cases? I mean, especially because you said that that you hadn't put in editing into the player app yet, implying that you will at some point. So once there is editing in the player app and you can get files from the cloud and you can do all, it seems I'm not quite sure what the use of just the player or the cloud app will be at that point.
I can help with that. Player by definition is a reader. So just like it is on the desktop apps, you can't, open up paper and just start typing away to be able to do. The mobile app is obviously the same thing. It's in the name, it's implied. You're the editor in that regard. The tech that it's built with is going to be extended, and you might see other products along the way at a future date that can do something on that front.
Okay.
That's what he was.
Okay, so it wasn't about
Yeah, player by itself is a free product that's a reader.
What's that?
But then so if there is
You want me to go back? Okay, sure.
That can give you that can still give you that similar functionality with the cloud app. Or are you saying that eventually the cloud app might be able to support those cloud?
Well, we can chat a little bit about the cloud.
Yes, sir.
I know it exists. Is there any chance that it might be an actual mathematic that runs on iOS? Because obviously, this little boy here is way more capable than a Raspberry Pi. And you managed to shoehorn it into that. I wouldn't mind if it were 10 times slower than my desktop, but I'd like to have real Mathematica, not a cloud thing.
Maybe. Come back next year. Yes, sir.
So, are you guys working on products that we could release simple apps, Android native apps, that you would just export and manipulate or something, and then they can download the app and use it?
Mm-hmm. So you're looking for an SDK then? Contact us. Somebody from our partnerships might be able to assist you with that. I don't have any comment on that, but I don't work on that. Yes, sir?
If you have a private cloud
Yes?
and you deploy applications there, can your player be connected to the private cloud?
Yes. Yes, sir.
I noticed that if you select a cell, you can evaluate it. If I select a group of cells, I can't evaluate the whole group.
Okay, that's another great feature suggestion. Can you send it to our tech support department, please?
Okay. And I also noticed that if you have some things that you set up to initialize, like the equals colon, they don't necessarily get evaluated in the right order. It's not just a problem for the iOS, but also for the web.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, again, contact our tech support and send us as many details as you can. We'd like to help you with that. Yes, sir.
So when you open something in the player, you want to open instead of the cloud, the default goes to the player. Can you change that? Sounds good.
You want to switch between the two?
Yeah.
I don't think we have any way of automatically doing that, but you can certainly manually do that because you can have the player app running in slide over, for example, while the cloud app runs in the foreground. You could do that, just not automatically switching. I believe we're out of time, so if you have any other questions, please contact me. Thank you.